I'm your host, Michael Krupkala. You can find me on Twitter or Discord at Mike Spellcheck. And today we are joined by not one, but two guests from the Tendermint Cosmos team. They're building an internet of blockchains, and we're very excited to talk to both of them. Chango Unchained is the community architect in charge of community growth and developer relations, and Sunny Agrawal is a research scientist for Cosmos, focusing specifically on crypto economics and fault-tolerant design. Enough from me. Chango, Sunny, how are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing great. I'm excited to be on.
Great to hear. Yeah, no, we're really happy that you were able to join. Listen, to start things off, I just wanted to ask how you got started working with the Cosmos project.
Sure, I guess I'll go ahead and start. So I got involved with blockchain maybe about 4 years ago now. I was a student at UC Berkeley and was exploring Bitcoin and Ethereum and a bunch of other things. And then at some point, I got really into proof of stake after one summer, and so I just started reading and learning more about that. And then from there, I kind of, looked into Tendermint, and I'm like, oh, this is seems to be a reasonable proof of stake design. And, I really like this Cosmos design of application-specific blockchains. And so I kind of just deep dove into there and reached out to the Tendermint team and kind of said, oh, is there anything, I can help out on? I just really want to get something going. I want to learn more about proof of stake, and, working with the team is the best way to do that. So I started doing that and got involved from there.
Cool. And Chango?
Yeah, so I heard about Bitcoin in 2014, and there was one of my friends that I went to college with was a miner, and he started telling me about this digital currency. And that was around the same time I was going down the macroeconomic path, looking into how our economic system works, and going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole of how the Fed, the evil Fed controls our monetary system, and Bitcoin is the way out, starve the beast. So I got interested in cryptocurrency through Bitcoin, and then eventually got involved with the industry by becoming a journalist. So I was covering a breadth of topics, and then eventually that led me down Cosmos and joining the Tendermint team to lead the communications and community growth strategy. So that's where we are now.
Well, listen, you guys, congratulations on the mainnet launch. So that happened, I believe, on March 14th, just a few weeks ago. How has the launch gone so far? What kind of feedback have you received from the community?
It's been going great. We launched, and we've been running for 2 weeks. There have been no halts of the network. There's been no sort of, no bugs in the code. All the delegation has been going fine. It really been exactly what we expected. There's a lot of cool governance discussion going around very early on in Cosmos, which is really fun. What we did was, one interesting thing we did was we launched the chain without the ability to transfer tokens. So all you can do right now is stake and vote on governance proposals. And so one of the first governance proposal that's coming out is the ability to turn on sends. And so it's really fun to watch this whole governance process take place.
We have seen a very high community engagement rate to vote and to allow transfers to be enabled. Because what we've seen in the DAO on Ethereum, which was the first decentralized application to have launched on the Ethereum blockchain, is that there was very low voter participation, and we were worried about that. But it seems that the Cosmos community is very highly engaged, and everyone really wants to push this atom transfers through, so that we could start, exchanging real atoms everywhere.
What does the roadmap look like? The immediate roadmap look like post mainnet release? When would you expect token transfers to potentially be voted to go live?
Well, tentatively, we have the atom transfers proposal ending on April 16th, and so tentatively that looks to be the date.
Why don't we actually drill down and talk a little bit more about IBC, the Inter-Blockchain Communication, if I have the acronym right, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. Okay. So as I understand it, that is the method by which different blockchains who might not necessarily have a lot of, a programming language in common or a lot of architecture in common. That is the design by which they communicate to each other and transfer data from one chain to another. How does that work exactly?
Right. Exactly. So essentially what IBC is it's supposed to be a very nicely general protocol which allows two blockchains to prove. So blockchain A will prove something about the state of itself to blockchain B. And how this works is that blockchain B will have to have an on-chain light client of blockchain A. So it really is just an extension of the sidechains idea that was first proposed by Blockstream back in 2014. But what we do is we designed it so it's a two-way sidechain rather than just one way, and it's designed specifically for BFT-based chains. But what we don't want is to only work with Tendermint consensus. So the idea is to abstract it so it can work with chains running Tendermint, Casper, Honey Badger, any of these sort of BFT-based protocols, as well as work with a variety of architectures, right? So, the first thing that we're focused on, obviously, is making it work with the Cosmos SDK, which is our development framework. But we also, that's why we created this IBC working group to make it abstract enough so that, on the working group right now includes like Loom, Agoric. We'd love to get some people from Parity on, so we want to make sure it's compatible with Substrate. We have Prismatic Labs, who's one of the ETH 2.0 developers, so we're trying to get IBC, make sure IBC is compatible with ETH 2.0. So kind of really designing this well-specified general protocol that then can went and be implemented by all of these different development architectures.
Okay. Which leads to why you guys call Cosmos an internet of blockchains, because it's roughly similar to TCP.
Yeah. I think the entire Cosmos vision shares a lot of analogies with the internet, and so we even take into calling it this term we picked up recently called the interchain, and so a lot of ideas about we think about IBC is very similar to TCP IP. The relationship between chains and the zones, Cosmos zones and Cosmos and the hubs are kind of like ISPs, and so a lot of the way it gives us a nice mental model by which to think, comparing it to the internet. So the interchain, and that's kind of really one of the main premises of Cosmos. Say Ethereum is an empire and Cosmos is building a world of nation states. And there's a lot of reasons I can give you that story, but one of them is it's about around specialization, where we had different nation states, we allowed different ones to specialize, and that involves writing state machines that are specially written. Perfect example is if you're building a payment system, right? You probably want to use UTXOs because UTXOs are just more efficient for that use case. There's a reason Bitcoin was written like that. But Ethereum, the EVM, requires you to use a count model because it's what's necessary for the average use case, the general purpose use case. But that kind of sucks if what you were trying to build is a payment system, because you don't have that amount of control to specialize your chain in order to be optimized for that use case. And that's kind of an example of what I mean, where one of the things the hub will do is be optimized and specialized for the purpose of being good at talking to many other chains over IBC. And so this specialization is really kind of one of the core tenets of Cosmos, of why we think that this will help scale the entire system.
So one of our slogans is, we call ourselves building the foundation of a new token economy. So that sort of builds on Sunny's idea of having these specialized nation states. Basically, before we had this global international market where international trade happens, these individual economies had to specialize and then become much more efficient and optimized at doing the one thing that they're good at. And then as trade routes opened up, like IBC connections opened up between these different specialized economies, they were able to grow the pie, so to speak. And so that's why in the future, we're thinking that this interchain vision sort of nurtures a much larger value being created for the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem that currently isn't being addressed in these empire models, because still a lot of these empire models are siloing the value within their own empires rather than creating this explosive wealth in this overall broader economy.
And that's kind of what another analogy, the TCP, IBC has this nice TCP IP analogy, but it also has this other nice analogy, which I like to do, which is containerization, which is like, one of the things that allowed, in the last 50 years or so, is we kind of standardized shipping containers. So now, and what that did was it allowed, if anyone, ever go to a port, you always see the same type of shipping container there, right? And same dimensions and everything. And what this did was it allowed a ship traveling from any port in the world to go to any other port in the world and be able to unload and load its cargo. And that standardization is what enabled like the global trade we see today. And so IBC, you can kind of think of it as the containerization, where let's come to agreement on a common standard so that then we can allow these packet transfers between any chain.
All right, why don't we switch over? Enough from me. Let's move it on to open up the floor and get some questions from the community. Old School Cool wants to know, in the white paper, I saw something about incentivizing hackers. How does that work?
So this was in the white paper. It's unfortunately not in the implementation at the moment, but essentially what was happening there is we want our validators to be very secure and highly have very high security. And so one of the things that we'll do is, we want to implement a system where if you can prove that you can hack a validator, so if you commit, you say, I'm going to cause this validator to double sign at this block height, and then you cause them to do it, they'll get slashed and you'll get a portion of the bounty essentially. And so it's kind of incentivizing, people to attack other validators and thus forcing everyone to harden their setups and make them as hack resistant as possible.
So next up, we actually have a question from Twitter. I don't have the handle in front of me, but thank you to whoever asked this one. How does the governance voting of Cosmos work specifically? And how would you go about proposing a proposal?
Sure. So the voting system on the Cosmos Hub currently works such that someone makes a proposal, and then there is a period of deposits where people can deposit funds. And currently you need 512 atoms to be deposited on a proposal before it gets moved to a voting period. This acts as a spam resistance mechanism, so people can't just spam with proposals. And so the nice thing is whoever's proposing it doesn't have to pony up the entire deposit themselves, right? This is why there's a deposit period. They can create a proposal, put some of their own money in their deposit, and they can sort of go crowdfund for, say, anyone else who's interested in this proposal, can you also deposit on this? Once there's enough deposit, then it goes into a 2-week voting period where people can vote yes, abstain, no, or no with veto. No with veto is sort of a stronger type of no, and it allows, instead of the threshold being 50%, its threshold is then 1/3, so 33%. This is if something is you're very much against it, or it's spam or something, you would want to vote no with veto instead of no.
I think that about does it. Chango, Sunny, thank you both for doing this with us. It's been a pleasure. We will be following what you are up to, and we're excited to see your next steps. And Cryptocopia, we will see you next week.
Thank you for having us.